else. They are dead. What if I were to tell you that most were dead? What if would it not destroy any hope that was left within you? What if I could show you within your small mind what happened to your creation, their last moments as the darkness consumed them, so that I might become corporeal once more? He placed both his hands upon my head. My eyes slowed themselves slowly, and all I could see was darkness. And from within that darkness I felt myself falling, as if I was no longer in my physical body. The sensation was very real. Then I saw ordinary people like me, going about their ordinary things. Some watching TV, some eating, some washing, things that become part of a normal day. Then I saw from the cracks of the floorboards a darkness descend like soil, rising up into the air, swarming around the individuals that were nearby, their faces and expressions transfixed. I saw their eyes staring straight at me, as if at that moment they could indeed see me, as if this was more than a relived moment, but an actual event that took place here and now. Then I saw their bodies obliterated into a million dark particles, and they slid through the cracks, or disintegrated like white smoke through the carpets. I saw these deaths 100 or more times over. Even people outside, chased by the swarming darkness that even consumed the street lamps, darkness from beneath and from above, descended upon the poor creatures that were once my brethren. Their fear was undescribable. The only saving grace was the very speed that it all took place. The death was apparently instant and without pain. I moved my hand away from his, and at that moment I must have resembled to him one who had been taken by the darkness, as my mouth was wide open, my eyes staring. Although his hands were away, the image still lingered on in my mind, like a projection that had no end. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but I had no energy or willpower to even raise them upon my tongue. "Pathetic human," he whispered as he pushed me down the stairs. I landed with a thud on the floor in a ball, still firmly fixed on his appearance, until he faded out of existence. I felt my arm, which was still weak, but life was once again returning to it, as my amazing body resupplied it with clean blood. I contemplated the choice I had made. That my own life was for the sake of another. Was it a life worth saving? Should I forsake it in some foolish gesture, to die a man rather than live a wretch as him, now more than a blood supply? Or should I attempt to kill him and rid the world of this enemy? Many days came and went. He soon drained most of the blood out of my body. The process of making blood could not keep up with his desire, and yet I still gave him more and more. Maybe I had made my choice to allow him to drain me dry, and then it would be an end to this miserable existence that I survived every day. There was many small conversations passed between this thing and me, as grotesque as it sounded. Each time he became more and more human. I put that down to him indulging on my blood, but he would often talk of humanity as something like one might see on an abattoir floor. "You still mourn your kind. Why?" "We have a right to live." "Right? What right do you have? You are a diseased piece of flesh mutating out of control, nothing more." "We are intelligent, compassionate with a conscience." "We are intelligent, compassionate with a consciousness." "Human. How in yourself you cannot sigh from far away, as I can see a trapped stranger from your very own existence. Let me tell you, human, piteous human being, that the first to be killed by my darkness was those of who were of deceit. It homed in them like a fellow shadow. Your great and noble race was diminished by over 75% in that first culling." I found myself slip away from my own grasp. Reality was shattered like a boy's foolish dreams. Truth weighed heavy upon me with his solemn words. Mankind truly was no greater than a mutation out of control. Left to its own devices, it had become no more than a disease, and yet it could not see that this was all it was. How many billions were 75%? All of them living with deceit. A small word with many meanings, possibly adultery, fraud, tax evasion, lying, big things, small things, all labelled under one word: deceit. I refused to speak to him any more after that, which gave him both great satisfaction and dislike, for he was pleased to see my suffering, my hope lost, but dislike for what out of me he was truly becoming. A week later I looked into the mirror, and to see my face was the greatest shock. It was wraith and thin. I had nearly aged 20 years. I looked as my father looked. My eyes were pale and insipid, my skin rough and lined, my hair thin and with no effort falling out in bunches. Even my body was marble white and blotchy, where without blood it was deteriorating. On pressing the skin, yellow pus would flow. The inside of my body was putrefying. I sat in the moment, fixed in my reflection. At first I felt anger that this had been done to me. Then that subsided, and I felt a sense of pure sadness, much like I imagine one would for losing family or friends, as if something so familiar had been snatched away from me. I felt the loneliness of my situation. Here in this house, filled full of dark oppression, living for the sake of this blood-sucking creature. With my bare hands I scratched my face in disgust, and what I had allowed myself to become, whole pieces of skin falling to the ground, but not even a drop of red blood fell. My cheekbones were revealed. I could see my face no longer. And with my weak hands I launched them into the panes of glass of this mirror, and kept on banging on and on and on and on, until the glass broke, separated, shattered into so many pieces, and my hands and arms were cut like an animal who had been attacked in some furious fight. Blood this time poured out of me like a tap that was on full blast, until with weakness I dropped to my knees. With my last cry I felt a sense of freedom. I felt myself reach a state of dizziness, and with my last glances reflected on broken pieces of mirror, I saw the dark shadow looming behind me. Then, as my eyes could no longer stay open, he was gone from my vision forever, and I fell into a darkness that I knew had no returning. But the end of it was a light, with which I knew I would once again be free.